The border is a mess. You know that. It's very clear based on all the news stories that you can see on this. And if you just read the basic facts and figures, or if you really just understand the Democrats' view on the border. I mean, they tell you things that are not what they really think and believe for public consumption so they can fool enough of the country that they can get away with this stuff for a little while. But that's starting to slip. They got problems. You have right now at the U.S.-Mexico border the highest number of illegal crossings in 20 years. That's right, in 20 years, friends. And if you go back to the late 90s and if you go back to the periods where you had border crossings along these similar lines, there were just single males who were crossing the border. It wasn't family units, wasn't unaccompanied children. And they were doing it in such large numbers and with such ease that they would go back and forth illegally across the border. You talk to Border Patrol, you can hear the stories about this. Sometimes they would just line up 100 guys right at the Tijuana-San Diego border, and they would just all do essentially a jailbreak run where they just go across and act like, or wait to see if anyone could actually tackle them from Border Patrol. That's how easy it was then. It's easier now, in a sense, because you don't even have to run. You just, if you want to cross into the country illegally, wave them down and say you want asylum. It's all you have to do. And this, as I've said all along, is because of the incentives in place right now. The people who are at the southern border and trying to control this, Border Patrol, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they don't have the political backing or the resources necessary to do the job that they want to do, that they're entrusted to do on behalf of the American people. And they will tell you, and they have been telling people that I am in contact with who are down there, and also, as I said, I'll be going down to the border myself in a couple of weeks to speak with all of them. They'll tell you that it's obvious why this is happening. People understand the Biden administration is not going to deport them and is welcoming to illegal crossings. That's it. It's very straightforward, but it's so straightforward at this point, given the numbers and the fact that you have a increasing public opinion turning on Joe Biden on this issue. Because the more you see this and the more it keeps happening, you say, hold on a second. How exactly are they planning on stopping this? I've been telling you all along, this is just going to get worse. Why wouldn't it just get worse? What's the downside? If you want to come to America illegally and stay here forever because it's a rich country with a big welfare state and a whole lot of economic opportunity. And as I've always said, I have no animosity. I have no ill will toward people who are crossing into the United States illegally. I understand why they're doing this, but I also understand why we have to have a border and law and order and sovereignty, or else the country starts to just evaporate over time. What is a country without borders? These are fundamental questions that used to be agreed upon by the American people, but now it's changed dramatically, as you know. You can't have a welfare state and open borders. You can go back to Milton Friedman. It's quite obvious why that's the case. And given the amount of money that we're spending now, the trillions of dollars we're throwing around, you start to see that the whole system is feeling a bit wobbly. And certainly our immigration system is coming apart, so much so that the Biden administration is now, and this is the great part of it, considering, what would you call it, Trumpian border policies, or at least a move toward them. What do I mean specifically? Well, DHS, according to a virtual town hall with the chief of DHS, Mayorkas, may start to prosecute some illegal crossers, especially those who are crossing for a second time. As I've told you, even if you did get turned back, there's no downside to trying it again. You might have to pay off the smugglers a second time, but that's it. There's no reason not to try again because they're not punishing people. Turns out that's actually a felony. It's a misdemeanor to cross into the United States the first time illegally. Second time you do it, it's a felony. Do you think they're prosecuting people under that? Well, they might have to, because if you don't, guess what? People keep coming. You don't just deport them once, you have to deport them a second time, maybe a third time. And they're seeing this now. Another one, and this is classic. they may fill in gaps in the border wall. The Biden administration may fill in some of the gaps in the border wall. Now, part of this is because the funding has already been allocated, and they're saying there are these legal reasons for why the funding must be used. But they're also admitting, well, yeah, in some places it's actually probably a good thing to have a finished fence, a finished wall. I've been to different sections of border wall, spoken to the Border Patrol about this at length. Walls work. I mean, of all the stupid things that Democrats said during the Trump administration, that walls don't work, maybe even more blatantly idiotic than Trump worked with Putin and Russia to steal the election through collusion that somehow there was no evidence of. And as we know from the very extensive investigations about it, it was all a fabrication. It's even dumber to say that the walls don't work. That's like saying water is not wet, right? That's like saying up is not up. Down is up is down. It's meant to exhaust you intellectually and to confuse you. The way the Biden administration approaches so many things. You're seeing this now with infrastructure. You'll see them say that everything is infrastructure now. I saw Kirsten Gillibrand on Twitter, the Democrat senator from New York, saying childcare is infrastructure. Healthcare is infrastructure. No, actually, childcare is childcare. It's not infrastructure. But they're going to say that everything is infrastructure now because it's propaganda. We're not idiots. We know that what they're saying isn't true, but they don't care. And they can fool the simple for the benefit of the powerful. That's the plan. That's exactly what they're doing right now. Which brings me to what's actually happening at the border. DHS Secretary Mayorkas is saying that they will maybe fill in some gaps. Just fill in some gaps in that wall. Why would you do that? I mean, walls don't work, they told us. Oh, it turns out that was a big lie. And a really dumb one, too. You know, we all understand walls don't work. The people that tell you masks work so well also tell you walls don't work. But there are walls all over the place, seem to work pretty well. Illegal crossings may be prosecuted under certain circumstances now. There was a whole movement, and it still is, among Democrats like AOC to make illegal crossing no longer a crime. Which, how are you ever going to stop border surges then? And they also are saying, the Biden administration is saying through this Mayorkas town hall for DHS, they'll take on sanctuary cities that won't assist federal law enforcement. Wait, hold on a second. I need to make sure that I'm double checking my work here. Yeah, that is what they are claiming. That is what they are saying, that they are going to. This is the headline from Daily Mail. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Biden's Homeland Security Secretary now says he wants to prosecute more illegal immigrants and will crack down on Democrat sanctuary cities that refuse to work with ICE. Cracking down on sanctuary cities? Really? What are we now? 3-4 months into the Biden administration? And they're already realizing obvious reality, which is that the status quo at the border, which is open borders, is unsustainable, even for crazy Democrats. Now, they don't mind the outcome of this in terms of the population inflow to the United States of illegals. That's not their problem. The problem is the American people are starting to see this. As much as the media is trying to cover up and soft pedal it and make it seem like it's not that bad and trying to downplay all this, the American people are seeing this and saying, what the heck is going on down there? And it's being reflected in the polling numbers. It's being reflected in public perception. So now they at least have to start to pay lip service to what would be termed in a normal world border security, which they do not have right now. Didn't take very long, did it? Remember kids in cages and how awful Trump was and everything else? Maybe they just were trying to do the best they could under difficult circumstances to actually secure the border, not to kick it wide open and then say, oh, we don't know how this happened. Oh, this is crazy. It's a crazy world we live in, folks. Guess we can't do anything about it. You know, maybe Biden will give another speech where he sort of squints and mutters some stuff to the American people where he's, guys, I'm your leader. And, I got things to say. It's unbelievable this guy is the president, but he is. Thanks, Democrats. What a joke. Oh, and then there's Kamala, the border czar. Kamala Harris put in charge of this. You know what's fascinating about Kamala Harris? She has the fanciest taxpayer-funded transportation system possible, right? Air Force Two or whatever, the vice president's plane. I forget what is it? I don't know, whatever. I mean, there's Marine One, there's Air Force Two, I guess. Whatever it is, she's on a fancy plane paid for by the taxpayer. She can go anywhere she wants pretty much at a moment's notice. She's been all over the place, been on the West Coast, the East Coast. She's stopped all over the country, flown all across the country. She's in Brentwood, California. She's flying all over the place and hasn't been to the border. So she's a border czar who's in charge of this, but doesn't seem to want to actually go see the crisis herself. Isn't that just so strange? Well, because any photo ops might backfire. You can't have her standing at these grossly overcrowded facilities where there's no social distancing and people are spreading COVID all over the place and kids are in really nasty circumstances there, as well as other people that are being held in detention at the border. You can't go to these overflowing facilities and put on a big smile and say, look at what a great job we're doing. So she's avoiding it. That Kamala is not going to the border, that she laughs when she's asked about going to the border, and she's in charge of this as the vice president of this administration, is a metaphor for the whole situation. They're just trying to cover up their eyes and just say, we don't really know. Maybe there's a problem, maybe there's not, but let's not focus too much on it. Oh, no, there's a big problem, and they can't solve it unless they're willing to do the one thing they really don't want to do, which is approach the border in a way more similar to the Trump administration.
Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.